Shenmue 3's release is just around the corner. After all of the false starts and all of the heartbreak, we're finally getting a new Shenmue game. And because we're just as excited as you are, we're dishing on when it's coming out, where you can play it, what you can expect to see, and much more. Kickstarter games are notorious for their delays, that's just the way it is, and Shenmue 3 is no exception. It endured several delays, but really, none of those are important anymore. The game now has an official release date, one that looks like it'll stick. Shenmue 3 comes to PlayStation 4 and PC on November 19th, 2019. And you know what? That's a pretty aggressive choice for a release date. The fall is typically packed in the video game space, with major franchises like Call of Duty always seeming to pop up in that window. This year, Shenmue 3 is putting itself right in the same time frame as Death Stranding, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. That's gutsy, but it could mean the Shenmue team believes it genuinely has something special, and that's good news. For just a moment in time, Xbox One fans were excited about Shenmue 3 because it looked like the game might be coming to their console. A Twitter user named Wario64, infamous for their leaks, found mentions of Xbox in the source code of Shenmue 3 pre-order page. Instantly, word got around the internet, and it looked as though Shenmue 3 would be a multi-platform release, and it would have made sense. After all, the remastered versions of Shenmue and Shenmue 2 also came to Xbox One. The Shenmue series has some history with Xbox. Why not? Unfortunately, publisher Deep Silver came along to shut the party down. They tweeted, "There is no planned version of Shenmue 3 for Xbox One." And that's all there is to it. It appears that Shenmue 3 is destined to remain a console exclusive for PlayStation 4. And we know what you're thinking. What about Nintendo Switch? You can probably forget about that too. Shenmue has never appeared on a Nintendo console, and there are no signs of that changing. Are you hoping for Shenmue 3 to be a prettier, more modern-day version of the Shenmue titles you might have played on the Dreamcast and the Xbox all those years ago? If so, it sure looks like you're going to get your wish. We've gotten to see some of the new game in action, along with some cutscenes from what we presume is the game's campaign. And it looks like vintage Shenmue.
What did you say to me? Stop it.
You'll talk to a lot of people, you'll chase bad guys through the streets, you'll engage in quick-time-heavy virtual fighter-esque battles, and Ryo will say okay a lot. Nothing in this trailer should frighten anyone who wants Shenmue 3 to stay true to the formula. This is still a Yu Suzuki game after all. He has some of his friends from past Shenmue titles working with him. There's a reason Sega trusted Suzuki and his team with the Shenmue license, because the company knew they'd take care of it. It's really been a long time since we've seen a new game in the Shenmue series, nearly 18 years in fact. Do you know how long that is? There are people who were born after the release of the last Shenmue title who are entering their senior year of high school. In video game time, that is ancient history. The game we're speaking about is 2002's Shenmue 2. It was originally meant to release on the Dreamcast, but when that system was discontinued, Shenmue 2 then found a home on the Xbox. Yes, the first Xbox. The one that looked like that kind of huge crate you'd store your tools in. Dreamcast, Xbox, these consoles both came out right around the turn of the century, back when the kind of open world found in Shenmue was new and remarkable. Now it seems like every game has an open world, and now, 18 years later, we're going to see what the next game does to catch up to the rest of the crowd. The Shenmue series holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts, and to understand why, you really need the context of the first game's release date. The original Shenmue debuted on December 29th, 1999, and at that time, open worlds weren't what they are now. They were barren, uninteresting, they didn't feel lived in. They were more about looking like a place and less about capturing its atmosphere. Shenmue had atmosphere in droves. Kotaku writer Keza MacDonald nailed it as she explained her love of Shenmue and its world. She wrote, "You could walk around wherever you wanted, doing mundane things, visiting the arcade, the convenience store, the park, a part-time job. These daily rituals slowly deepened my familiarity with the game city of Yokosuka, until it felt not like a fictional place I'd visited, but an actual place I'd lived." Shenmue 2 accomplished similar ends, giving you areas of Hong Kong to explore, tempting you with the various attractions you'd come across. Both games were immersive and impressive in their ability to make you feel connected to the place Ryo was in, and in that, they were ahead of their time. Of course, not everyone feels so strongly about Shenmue's place in history, but if you've been wondering why the series has so many fans, and why so many are eagerly awaiting Shenmue 3, now you know. Don't be mistaken about the amount of excitement there is surrounding Shenmue 3, however. There are a lot of fans on that hype train, but that doesn't mean everyone is all that excited to dive back into the world of Shenmue. It's been a very long time after all. Video games are quite different now. For all we know, Shenmue 3 could end up being a total disaster. There are definitely some red flags popping up that we should make note of. Some gamers have played a demo of Shenmue 3 and found it felt just like the old games in the worst way possible. There are also some concerns about the game's voice acting work and the combat being a little too stiff by today's standards.
I see, I think.
Our worst fear? That the game will feel like a relic, and that's not impossible. Shenmue 3 is straddling a very fine line between nostalgia and what the gamers of today want to see. How well it balances the two will ultimately determine how well the game is received. And to know that, we can't use a crystal ball. We'll have to wait until November.
Excuse me. Hi. I'm searching for members of the Three Blades.
The Three Blades? Ryo, how come you know about them?
We don't want to spoil too much of the Shenmue story for you. After all, remasters of the first two games were released fairly recently, which means you don't need to dig out a Dreamcast or an Xbox to go back and play them. What we do feel comfortable saying though, is that the first Shenmue took place in Japan, and the second took main character Ryo from Japan to Hong Kong, China. In Shenmue 3, Ryo will continue his adventures in China, though it appears the story will be less about him this time around. The International Business Time reports that Shenmue will only concentrate on furthering Ryo's personal story to a factional degree. The rest will be more about building out the version of China Ryo is currently exploring. He'll take on quests from characters in the open world, tackle other situations as they pop up, and spend time getting to know the Chinese countryside. Former Shenmue producer Yu Suzuki managed to get permission from Sega to make a new game in the series. That's great, but how much could he possibly do on his own? He certainly didn't make either of the last two Shenmue titles by himself. He had a team. Good news, some of those team members are also working on Shenmue 3. A company called Neolo is also helping out with the title. Takeshi Hirai of Neolo previously worked on the first Shenmue as a chief programmer, and Kotaku also reports that Suzuki worked to, quote, gather other key members of the development team for the original game. So while we don't have specific names, that's a pretty good sign for Shenmue 3 staying true to its roots. It means Suzuki wants to make something that feels familiar to longtime fans. Will it ultimately achieve that goal upon its release? We'll find out. Shenmue is a Sega property, end of story. It debuted on the Dreamcast, it was developed by Sega, and it was published by Sega. In fact, there's a good chance some of you watching this right now believe that Sega is the company working on Shenmue 3. The series is so closely tied to the Japanese software company that the idea another company might work on Shenmue and a totally different company might even publish it might shock you. That's exactly what's happening. Sega is licensing Shenmue to a development studio called EaseNet, which is headed up by former Sega employee and Shenmue producer Yu Suzuki. Not only that, Shenmue 3 will be published by Deep Silver. Sega will likely be making a bit of coin depending on how well Shenmue does in the sales department, but otherwise, the company has nothing to do with the game at all. You learn something new every day. Shenmue 3 nearly made it to release without a major scandal. That's tough for a game to do. Something always seems to come up in the 11th hour to rile gamers up. But Shenmue 3 looked like it was headed toward clear skies and calm seas. That is, until the PC gaming show happened at E3. Everyone at E3 got a brand new look at Shenmue 3 during the PC gaming show, which was great. But then the end of the trailer happened. That was not. Completely changing the store you plan to launch your game on? That's not the best news to quietly deliver at the end of a video. It's especially not recommended when the store you're moving to is already under fire. PC gamers have some real beef with the Epic Games Store and its propensity to sign exclusives. It's managed to pull a bunch of games away from Steam, the preferred launcher for many PC gamers, and to keep them on the Epic Games Store only. Shenmue 3 went from being a Steam release to an Epic Games Store release in the blink of an eye, and Kickstarter backers were livid. Some complained online, some even demanded their money back. Developer EaseNet promised it would look into the deal, and that the EGS wasn't the only store Shenmue 3 would eventually sell on. But the damage had been done. It remains to be seen if that damage ultimately hurts Shenmue 3's sales on PC. Stop us if you've heard this one before. Yu Suzuki wants to make another Shenmue game. No, we didn't just pull that from the many articles you could find from 2001 in which Suzuki repeatedly expressed his desire to continue the series. Suzuki is actually trying to leverage the development of Shenmue 3 into another game afterward. Yes, Yu Suzuki wants to ensure there is a Shenmue 4 at some point. The best way to do that? Leave the story incomplete. When asked by US Gamer how far Shenmue 3 would take Ryu Hazuki's story, Suzuki used a water bottle as a prop. The full bottle represented the entirety of Ryo's tale, and then he pointed to signal where the the story would be after the new game. It was below the halfway point, or as a translator offered, quote, 40%. Exactly how many Shenmue games does Suzuki want to make again? After 3 games, Ryo will only be 40% through? Yikes. We'll have to see how successful Shenmue 3 is before we know if there will ever be a Shenmue 4, but it sure seems like Suzuki will want a lot more than that in the future. Stay tuned. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more SVG videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.